Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and other members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DEFTECH. In this podcast, we will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with the potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions for our nation. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Defense Technology Talks, DefTech Live, Federal Technology Opportunities Update and Analysis. So busy last couple of weeks. I've been always looking to find small businesses to come on, do a small business showcase. But the other part of it is there's just a lot going on in the state of North Carolina, and with the budget and how everything's going with the SBIR and STTR reapproval situation, we have a lot of stuff going on. Lots of opportunities opening up as well, but I will pass it over to Bob and we will get this started.
Thanks everyone for joining us as we gather as the North Carolina innovation ecosystem as a whole state approach to national security. I believe that none of us is as strong as all of us. So we come together each week to kind of, as Rob said, kind of lay out these federal technology opportunities, highlight the changing technology landscape, look at the changing geopolitical environment that's rapidly shifting around the world, in order to align our lines of effort of scouting for technologies, identifying opportunities, educating the ecosystem, informing companies, universities, public-private partnerships, assisting in teaming opportunities, and assisting in companies to submit for these opportunities, facilitating government discussions, and then connecting amongst our ecosystem and connecting with those government end users. And we're going to highlight that today and how we participated, supported the Defense Applications Expo recently this past week. And we did more of a deep dive on this on the DefTech coffee call. So if you haven't seen that, you can contact us and we can send you the link, or you can feel free to join us on Friday. Since we're talking about the coffee call, as we move and continue through a year of convergence, we've started in-person coffee calls. Friday, we're going to be at RTI, Research Institute. We'd like folks to register for that. If you're interested in joining our in-person coffee calls, we'd love to have you. Well, we talk about these national critical and emerging technologies lists and the R&D modernization priorities, the service modernization priorities, and how they're nested in the budget in order to advance these technologies to become warfighting capabilities. So when we look at a year of convergence, I'm sure everyone has seen this. DefTech has been really busy, but we focused monthly on a particular topic area or one of those, or a convergence of topics that we just looked at from the critical and emerging technologies list at the national level. So where are the investments? And then we've brought in speakers, had discussions, had TIDE cycles for our technology scouting, and we've talked about these different convergence areas. We're wrapping up September, Battlefield Innovation, with Dr. Lee is going to speak from the Army perspective and the research, the early technologies, highlighting the changes in the SBIR program, and then what that reauthorization looks like for the next couple of years. Because it is America's seed fund, and the Small Business Innovation Research Program is absolutely essential to ensure our warfighters have the latest technologies, and they're never sent into a fair fight, but always have that technological overmatch and advantage. And then if you missed the coffee call with Art Trevathon, Army Applications Lab, that's worth going back listening to. So like Rob said, there's a lot going on. And that's why we do these sessions, is to highlight all of these changes. And then you saw coming up in October is Cybersecurity Month. So you're going to want to tune into that, listen in for the Army Cyber Institute and others as we understand the convergence that's taking place in cyberspace, the global threats that are happening, And then the use of cyber as a domain of war, how our adversaries are leveraging that, in particular in Ukraine right now, Eastern Europe, with Russian aggression there. Our value proposition: we believe in you as our community. We believe in the power of our community to collaborate and win to strengthen national security. And then we leverage these rapid contract mechanisms, creating these opportunities in order to converge at the organizational level as well, getting folks working together to develop these capabilities and then to rapidly deliver them to warfighters. Why? Because the National Defense Strategy says we've got to get technologies we need more quickly into the hands of our warfighters. So this is why we gather every day. This is how we do it. So we talked about the why. This is really kind of the how. As an outcome-based approach, a whole state approach for national security, DEFTECH synchronized to position North Carolina as a front line of the future. And then just register with our Mobilize platform, listen to our podcast as you are now, check out our articles on LinkedIn, stay connected. There's a lot of information. We're sharing a lot of our experience with our ecosystem, again, to scout, identify, educate, inform, assist, facilitate, and ultimately to connect. We're here to support you with your solicitation and proposals as you submit for these SBIR and other opportunities. So again, we've done this several times, doing a deep dive, so I'm not going to walk through it in its entirety. But it's important to understand the big picture. What's happening at the national strategy? How are the operational priorities fulfilled by tactical applications? And we're going to discuss that this morning about the Defense Applications Expo, or the DAX, and how that tactical exercise, scheme of maneuver, concept of operations, warfighting scenario applied these different technologies in order to understand, create warfighter touch points, and ultimately to inform requirements nested with modernization priorities, in this case with the Army, and then how you see those opportunities display themselves on DCIPS and the Defense Small Business Innovation Research Portal. And then, of course, those are all nested with in the budget, because those are the critical technology areas. Rob, before we move on, do you want to discuss anything here on how the DAX is really kind of changing the game at the tactical level to meet some of these operational and strategic objectives?
Yeah, I think one of the things about the DAX that's important that a lot of people miss is it's just like jumping out of an airplane. I can tell you how cool it is to be a paratrooper, but until you do it for yourself, you really don't know. But the DAX is the Defense Applications Expo. It's hosted by Major General Retired Grange at his farm in Council, North Carolina. And the main thing that makes it interesting is a technology-enabled demonstration off of the back of a tactical scenario. So basically what they've allowed the vendors that are participants in is to sponsor a technology and then have that technology used in a tactical scenario, but all of which have impacts on the operational and strategic part of the force. So they're using operations with cybersecurity, long range precision fires, a whole bunch of the other aspects that you normally don't get to see. It's all done commercially. And the best part is you can harvest the data. So if you were trying to set up a scenario at Fort Bragg, you'd be limited to the limitations of the post. Whereas executing an event at a private facility allows you to do a little bit more and allows you to collect a lot more of the data. So we had a myriad of different vendors that showed up, sponsors that showed up, and some nonprofit organizations showed up as well. But some of those nonprofit organizations actually take some scientific experimentation and provide feedback to organizations as well. But the bottom line is to collect as much data as we can on unique technologies and then get them into the hands of the warfighter. And unbeknownst to a lot of people that were there were quite a few people in uniform, or at least still in service, but they just happened to not be wearing their uniform. So you had some technical points of contacts on a couple of SIBRs. Folks from 18th Airborne Corps, 82nd, and SWIC were all down there, and you wouldn't have known that they were there unless you had a conversation with them. So that's the other advantage of it, is it's bringing all the elements together: academia, the commercial space, and the Department of Defense, and then putting a tactical scenario together. And it's actually kind of frightening to watch the level of proficiency that happens in less than 96 hours with a bunch of people that know how to integrate technology into a tactical scenario. Now imagine being able to have that as a mobile training team with all this new equipment in your brigade or your battalion. So then not only do you get a good understanding of what the equipment does, but you've actually seen it in use. But I'll pause there and pass it back over to Bob.
Yeah, great points. I'm going to go ahead and show a video, Rob, and hopefully the sound comes through. And that way, folks, if you're listening on the podcast, you're going to hear some great tunes. But you want to check out the video so you can actually see the images and see what we're talking about. And that's going to be available inside the Mobilize community. And then we'll deep dive how we, as North Carolinians and North Carolina businesses, as an ecosystem, can provide, like Rob said, a very cost-effective technology integration, RDT&E scenarios and platform for DoD. Let me go ahead and pull up that video, and we'll share that. And I'll tell you, Rob, I was at the event, and I've been to and run these types of events. I've never been to a more well-orchestrated, well-integrated scenario and integration of technologies to understand and gain those warfighter touch points, warfighter feedback, and then most importantly, enabling the guys on the ground to do the work that they have to do based upon the mission. When I remember the mission changed several times, and then the technology was very agile and able to adapt to the changing scenarios or the work or the jobs to be done by the individuals using those technologies. You mind kind of walking through? We look at Project Convergence as the Army's large program to integrate different technologies into warfighting concepts, scenarios, using their cross-functional teams and otherwise. But I have to assume, at a very large cost. It's an important scenario and event. But how can you talk through some of these technologies and how we can do this at North Carolina, potentially even at a much lower price point?
Yeah, so when you look at the DAX, the lowest entry point was fairly modest at $2,500. I don't think if you were trying to go out to Project Convergence and bring your equipment, you could rent a vehicle and drive across the country for that price. And so that's the low end. And of course, if your company is more established or is outside of that developmental phase and you have commercial applications, that's perfectly okay. But I'm just going to run through the list of the technology collaboration areas and highlight the ones that actually were at the DAX event. So for sensors, there were sensors there. We had sensors on drones. We had sensors on people, which is very, very easy. Effects, of course, kinetic and non-kinetic. Of course, ballistic being the simplest one, but some in the non-kinetic effects was we had messaging platforms out there that allowed you to set up 5G internet in 15 minutes or less to provide those communications all throughout the battle space. In addition to that, you could do messaging platforms. So if you had a non-interference or non-disruption message that you needed to present, you could tie people in the community with the same system to that. An additional C2 effect, we were able to do maneuvers, fire, and intel basically off of two networks. So we did FM comms, and then we actually had a Blue Force tracking platform that was provided by one of the sponsors. So you had situational awareness of all the moving elements that were on the ground, and there was a common operating picture that everyone could see, so much so to the point that the company provided a workspace that if you installed their app onto your phone, you could actually see everything that the operators were doing because it was tied into the network. Protection, of course, you had several different types of body armor. You had several different types of underlayers or base layers to wear that provided for cooling, and some technology in that effect. Again, going back to communications, we had 5G out there, also satellite. Assured PNT, we did have a company that had assured PNT drones for you to fly. So you could fly those drones in austere conditions or congested EMS and still successfully be able to utilize them for reconnaissance mission. Robotics, several robotics companies there. We had a robot from as small as one that you could carry in your rucksack and toss into a subterranean facility to a fully robotic dog that's autonomous that you could drive and control to do several different mission type platforms in there. Artificial intelligence and machine learning. We had AI and machine learning there to develop scenarios. We actually had a augmented reality training suite there, which was super, super interesting. Medical. So we had both medical sensors and new medical equipment to help protect the folks that were on the ground. Sustainment. We had a austere joint capability that was deployable that allowed you to purify water. Had power generation off the grid, and a lot of other applications that would be useful operating in austere environments or contested environments where you may not have access to the grid. Autonomy, again, robots and drones, cloud computing, everything that was responsible for the ability to compute the backside support for the augmented reality and planning. And so the planning probably was the lowest tech of everything, but it was enabled by all the other technologies that were there. So when you're talking about the DAX hit every technology collaboration area that Project Convergence does. But if you're a North Carolina company, it's a much, much shorter drive and a lower cost threshold. And so that's one of the advantages of paying attention to the event when it happens. And we're saying it today. So today is September the 28th. Block it off the first 2 weeks of September. Make sure that you kind of earmark that on your calendar, because we're probably going to have another DAX event again. And DEFTECH will be a part of it, as trying to help assist people getting into the program. And unbeknownst to us, found this out later, there's a couple companies that are on SBIRs and STTRs that are getting some additional work from participating at the DAX, because there were technical points of contact from the government that were there, that were willing and showed interest in their technology. So from soup to nuts, this gives you everything that you need to have at Project Convergence, minus the government sponsor and, you know, the price point. So if you're able to execute a similar type event, smaller scale, but yield the same type of results, I think it's worth your time, energy, and effort. And I'll pause there and pass it back to Bob.
Yeah, just kind of as you're going through that, Rob, it makes me think, we talked a lot about the technologies. If you don't mind, maybe revisit some of these and go through the environment on how other scenarios could be run, in particular for testing, evaluation, medical scenarios, leadership training and integration. So more so looking at the Osprey Global training facility. Kind of go through the facility if you don't mind, because I think we can readdress that for the protection, the inside of the the subterranean facility, on how those things can be applied, the protection with Troy's Gate. So do you mind kind of maybe rewalking some of these, but integrating it into the actual environment? And then that just shows folks, I think, the diversity and the agility that Osprey provides at their facility in Council, North Carolina. Over.
Yeah, so when you look at the facility itself, it's 47 acres proper on Osprey training facility, and they have access to another 200 plus. So you're looking at about 300 acres of pretty pristine area that you can conduct operations in. It's remote. It's far enough away from, the city where you're not going to have unwanted eyes looking at you, but it's also far enough away where you can actually get into, some small level explosives, which were there. There is a subterranean facility on the property. There's multiple 360 shoot houses. One is specifically designed by Amadon Ballistic Concrete. There's an additional one from Troy's Gate. And basically what Troy's Gate allows you to do is, integrate law enforcement or even, just personal protection training into that real world scenario. So you actually have a live target on the other side, and you have to be able to defeat that person in a scenario, a stressful scenario, on top of everything else. Additionally, multiple long range precision fires ranges. So they have several alleys where you can shoot up to a 1,200 meter shot. And, what nobody gets to see during the DAX event, which is interesting, is there's also access to the Cape Fear River. So you could do littoral or boat operations, whether that be fast boats along the river. And then you could do Zodiac boats or rubber boats coming in through the swamp in the backside of the property. So you could utilize, basically land, sea, and air to get in it. There's another piece of it that a lot of people aren't aware of, is there is a memorandum of agreement with the FAA to allow aircraft to fly basically in the southern portion of North Carolina and the northern portion of South Carolina, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but there's an MOA over there that allows you to fly manned and unmanned up to 18,000 feet. So as part of your coordinations, you can request for that type of support, and your equidistance basically from JSOC headquarters, MARSOC headquarters, and 2MEF at Camp Lejeune. So there's a lot of assets that you have the capability to. You can do a flyaway mission to the property or a flyaway mission from the property. And, you're right in the pipe. So if you're an aviation type person, you can stop there, do a simulated FARP or do an actual FARP. I don't know. I mean, it depends on if they can get the clearance to do it. And then fly down to Cherry Point and actually conduct some CMOS or EW training on your aircraft for your TAC Ops guys to get better integrated into the system. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And it's, again, it's in the state and it's close enough where you can reach out and touch all these things and you can hit all the domains there. And one of the things that Osprey is looking to develop is their capabilities to do more electronic warfare or more contested environment type training, even if it's just protection or MCOM or emissions control stuff. So people can get better at those mission sets. So when they deploy, they have a technical advantage that is needed to defeat our enemies. And so again, it's a great opportunity, great training facility. If you need to know more information, we can get it to you. But the bottom line is it's available to you. You got to pick up the phone and figure out how you're going to coordinate it between all the other activity that Osprey is doing. But it gives you a chance to train here in the backyard and collect all the data.
Great. And kind of as we wrap up this portion, the ability to do research development, the technology experimentation piece is absolutely key right here in North Carolina. And then the ability to do that helps you get after these potential partnering mechanisms with government agencies, from CRADAs to BAAs, SBIRs, and STIRs. We talked about other transaction agreements and other opportunities. So thanks for that deep dive, Rob. And again, it's a great facility for our companies to take advantage of right here in North Carolina. And then, of course, for our government friends to run their full mission profiles and their pre-mission training for whatever the contingency is. So kind of looking at some of the opportunities that are out there. If you're not participating or haven't signed up for the Army Vertex and you're in the human performance space, you're running out of time. Sign up now, request an invite. You have to be accepted based upon your ability to add to the discussion. You'll see where we sent out a TIDE quad chart and actually did a TIDE cycle based on the Vertex human performance. Again, what is your problem that you're solving in the human performance space? How do you solve that problem? What is your readiness level or impact readiness level for technology? And then the impact of the solution on the warfighter, the mission, really tying in some of the things that we've been talking about from the strategic down to the operational, with the modernization priorities down to the tactical level. And then looking at those dual use applications and technologies. And then, of course, the SBIR cycle, we'll see, but it looks as though that will be reauthorized. So I think wrapping up 2022 and into 2023, I believe is going to be a fantastic year for opportunities for small business. Of course, our team, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a couple of sites here, Rob. We already talked about Army Vertex. Close this out. The Fed Supernova is actually taking place right now. If you haven't signed up, you can attend this virtually. I don't know if they're going to have replays or not, but that's a great opportunity for government to get together down at the Austin Capitol Factory. Let's talk about X-Tech Search and what is happening in the X-Tech space. X-Tech Search, as you know, is an Army program, prize competition to award. And again, the key is to accelerate innovative technology solutions that can help solve Army challenges. Kind of the key part of the DAX is the ability to integrate those challenges into a warfighting scenario at the DAX in order to test these innovative technology solutions, to accelerate their development, gain the warfighter touch points, determine whether you need to pivot and make a new approach or just make an adjustment, and the whole time informing requirements. So again, this is the way the Army attracts and encourages innovation. And it just shows, based on our strategy slide, how all of this nests together and how you've got to be a part of the whole ecosystem, we believe, for increased success in the government space. So a lot happening on the X-Tech space. X-Tech Search 7 opened up on the 27th here yesterday, and that runs for a month. And then this is for US-based sole proprietors and small businesses. You've got to read what they're asking for in this prize challenge. Open topics, Army modernization. Everyone listening to this broadcast, if you are not submitting for X-Tech Search 7, reconsider your business approach, your business model. Dedicate some time to submitting for these prize challenges. How much? Up to $2.5 million. I can't think of a small business that couldn't benefit from some of these dollars. Again, they're looking for folks to participate, offering opportunities to pitch novel technology solutions and then new applications for existing technologies or an entirely new technology concept to the Army. So this is for everyone. All barriers have been removed. Usually these are very, very focused, and you're going to see how the next two opportunities for XTech are open. And Rob, do you mind talking just a little bit about these prize competitions and why these open topics are so important to support not just Army modernization, but defense modernization, so that our warfighters always have the best technologies going into battle.
Yeah. So two things about the XTech search. So with the open topics, what you can do is you can win money, right? And that's easy. So it'll offset your cost just for going to the event if you compete. The second part of it is it sets you up for SBIR awards. So you can go from usually those are direct to phase 2 looking awards, and those are up to the 2.5 million. So you actually can go down there, show your technology, and have the potential to win and get funded. And that's the big difference. It's a lot of events that you go to. Hey, you spend money to go to a trade show, you're just spending money. Whereas if you go to XTech Search and you put yourself in there, it gives you an opportunity to win. If you win, up to $250K per SBIR, and then you have the opportunity to go direct to phase 2. The other part of it is you get the touch points. And once you're in the system and people are looking at you, one of the things that we've heard time and time again from every government agency that comes on in the innovation space is they always look at other services challenges to help solve some of their problems as well. So just because it's an Army problem for XTech Search does not mean, assured position, navigation, and timing is not just something that's unique to the Army. The Air Force is looking at it. The Navy is looking at it as well. So is the Marines. So if you are able to participate in something similar to XTech Search or any of the other prize opportunities or open topics, what that allows you to do is it allows you, one, to get some touch points, because you need those technical points of contact. So you're not going to get those by going to a trade show. You might, but those people that go to trade shows that are in the uniform, they get handed so many business cards and squishy balls that they pretty much forget who they talk to by the end of the day. And you're talking a 3 or 4 event with, 300 to 400 vendors. And so I'm not going to remember all of them. I may remember 1 or 2 that kind of piqued my interest. That's something that I'm interested in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to remember all the people that I talk to. So it's definitely something that we have to look at as far as engaging with the people at the trade show. But the other part of it is putting in for an open topic just makes your ability to communicate with the customer better. And that's ultimately what you want to get to. So if I can talk to the customer, understand their needs, and then do an event like DAX, then I get those warfighter touch points. And then on my next iteration for the next submission, the next quarter, I have a little bit more accuracy in responding to the question that they're asking me. So again, 2 things: it helps you learn the language that you're going to be communicating in, and you can win money. And it's a great opportunity to work on your pitch. If you're not working on your pitch on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you're missing out, because again, the better that you can articulate what you do or what it is your product does, it impacts you greatly when it comes to opportunities like this, particularly XTech Search or any of the other pitch type opportunities. And I'll pause there and pass it back to Bob.
All right. Thanks, Ron. I know we've been going for a little while, but really just this session, we just wanted to tie it all together to see how North Carolina and how DEFTECH is positioning the North Carolina innovation ecosystem for success, for those wins, as a whole state approach for national security. And again, XTech Search for the Army is seeking novel disruptive concepts and technology solutions with dual use capabilities that can assist in tackling the Army's current needs and apply to Army concepts. So we've talked about that. Here's some of the critical technology areas. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they include artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced materials, autonomy, climate and clean energy technology, cyber. Basically, a lot of the things we looked at for the DAX, and then also for project convergence. We talked about it in the strategy with the modernization priorities. So you're starting to see how all of this nests together and how all of this converges. And then just to be clear, based on the website that I'm seeing and the prize challenges, it does appear that based on how many people submit, that there will be cash prizes potentially up to $20,000 each. So you got to read the fine details. Some of these for phase 1 SBIRs, like Rob said, up to $250K, and that all varies based on the prize and SBIR requirements. But participate. This one is for HBCUs, looking for undergraduate students, attending Department of Education designated HBCUs, looking for your technologies. And Rob, kind of as we start to wrap up here, why is this important to that DoD, is engaging the HBCUs and potentially some overlooked technology universities and approaches? Over.
Yeah, when you look at the HBCUs, there's a ton of them in the country, but the other part of it is there's a lot of funding that's been reserved for their development. But the other piece of it is there's a whole bunch of technologies that's being explored at the HBCUs. For example, Fayetteville State University has autonomy, they have robotics, they have, cyber applications, and they're all right here in the backyard of Fort Bragg. But guess what? Most people don't even know that they're there. Or if they do know that they are there, they don't understand the level of research and the amount of work that they're doing. So again, knowing who's who in the zoo is very, very important to figure out how you're going to support the DoD. And maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're an alum and you want to help provide your university with more opportunities. So you as a small business can support some project that's going on at HBCUs. It's up to you. Again, not to say that, it's not to say that anybody's doing more or less work than anyone else, but it's just the amount of visibility that it gets. And it goes back to marketing. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're marketing your personal business, you're marketing your product, or you're marketing a service. The more people know about it, the more opportunities you have to do work with other people. And so this is a great collaborative opportunity. Yes, there's not as much money on the table for the HBCU support as some of the other events, but that's just because they're smaller, they're niche. And if you have a niche capability that kind of matches with some of the research that you're doing, entertain it. Go talk to those guys. We talk to Dr. Bhattacharya at Fayetteville State quite often. He has some great stuff that's going on with multiple different government agencies. So it's not just the Army. He's got some of the alphabet agencies that he's working with, and some of his robotics technologies are being looked at by other services as well. So you can't just limit yourself to, I'm going after the big money, because the big money event may be the most lucrative, but it might not be the most winnable. So again, you have to kind of do your assessment of what works best for you and give it a shot. I mean, all these things are available, and I would encourage you, regardless of what organization it is, to submit sooner rather than later to give yourself the best opportunity to win.
All right. And as we wrap this up, you should see the critical emerging technologies list come to life in each one of these opportunities. So when we start out with that, that's deliberate. We start out with a strategic perspective, looking at the operational modernization priorities down to these tactical level opportunities. That's how it all works together. We ask is, hey, a 4-block quad chart that gets after what they're looking for, so we can help position our companies to participate in events like the Vertex, participate in events like X-Tech Search, we can support and recommend companies to participate in the DAX and other events like Thunderstorm and other events that are happening, even Project Convergence. Let DefTech be a part of your winning submission, your winning proposal, your winning approach. We stand ready to support you. So we'll kind of wrap it up with this one, Rob, and this is X-Tech Manufacturer. A lot happening. Looks like they've got some obvious prize monies available here through October, which is interesting. These must have been pre-allocated before the fiscal year changeover, because this goes into fiscal year 23 when you look at the government funding cycles. But great opportunities to participate in these prize challenges. And again, this one has to do with small businesses, institutions, but looking for defense manufacturing solutions. So hopefully we've provided some insights for you today, and we really appreciate everyone joining us today. We really like putting these sessions out because it helps us to deep dive and provide awareness that we can of all these opportunities, so we can execute our lines of effort from scouting, identifying, educating, informing, assisting, facilitating, and ultimately connecting, I believe, for a win. Rob, we'll pass it back over to you to kind of close this out for today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again for everybody for listening. This has been Defense Technology Talks. I am Rob Robinson, along with my colleague, Bob Burton, and we work for the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTECH. If you have any ideas, or you just get stuck on a submission or anything that you're working on, feel free to reach out to your DEFTECH team. All the information will be in the chat. All the information will be in the podcast description. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of connect with us and figure out where we can help you and succeed. Because again, it's a team effort, and nobody gets there by themselves. And if somebody tells you that they did, then you might want to do a background check on them because they're probably not being completely honest with you. But again, teamwork makes the dream work, and it hates to be cliche, but it's very, very important for us all to come together as a community of interest and provide these services and capabilities to the Department of Defense sooner rather than later to leverage all the assets that we have to enhance our warfighters' mission. But we will see you guys next week, and thanks.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTECH. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is another free service that we provide to access more national security business and collaboration opportunities. You can also sign up for more information at deftech.nc.gov. Join us again soon for our next podcast coming to a platform near you.